Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlocked Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here with you guys today, all the way from the Gold Coast of Australia. And I have a very, very special guest to share with you guys today. And she tells me she's all the way from Toronto, Canada. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely love Canada. I've had the privilege of being able to travel there a few years back, and I absolutely want to go again. Now, today's show is for you guys who have kind of those people that have got a book that is inside of your head. You're thinking, gosh, I've got so many things that I could share with the world, and I would just dearly love to put them down on paper. I would love to be able to do that, but I'm just not 100% sure how to do it. What are the things that I should be doing? What are the things that I absolutely should avoid? Well, today's show is absolutely for you because my very special guest, Jess, and hopefully I'm going to say her name correctly, surname pronounced Kotzer. Am I close?
No, no one's pronounced it like that
All right.
before.
Tell me, how do I say it correctly?
Some say Kotzer, so
There
I
you
say
go.
Kotzer.
Kotzer. Well, there you go. See, I totally butchered that because that would be my New Zealand Australian accent kind of coming in, and that's how we would pronounce it here. I would say Kotzer. Anyway,
All
that's a
right.
bit of a fancy way of saying it. But I want to welcome her to the show because there's a lot of people in my audience that really fit what I have just said. They've got a book sitting inside of them. They're wondering, how the heck do I get all of this information out, put it into a book, and should I go down the path of hiring a publisher or should I self-publish? And I couldn't think of anybody better. She came highly recommended, is Jess, and she's done this many a time. She's written 3 books herself. They're on Amazon. She helps many of her clients in the agency that she runs. She has a real specialty around helping people publish their books and using that for list building and lead generation. So I want to share with you guys today all of her knowledge and her experience so that you too can go away, take all that information out of your head, put it into an amazing book, and use that for lead generation and list building for your business. So welcome to the show, Jess. And I'm not going to say your surname again because I'll butcher it. So I'm just going to say, Jess, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Tracy.
You're most welcome. So hey, let's kind of start with how you started doing all of this. I know it kind of goes back to your, I'm going to say university or your college days is kind of where it all began. So give everybody a bit of an insight into how this has all come about and doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, I want to say that my mistakes are probably the most important to learn from, or just as important to learn from compared to my successes. But back in university, I don't think we've really talked about this much, but I had Lyme disease for a decade. And I got really sick when I was traveling Europe. I was on exchange in the Netherlands. And long story short, I became passionate about Lyme disease research. I really nerded out on Lyme disease and started blogging about it. So I never thought I'd be a blogger. I never thought I'd be a marketer, but this was my gateway to writing books. And one of the good things that came from blogging and just learning about marketing as a Lyme disease blogger was that I turned my blog posts into my first book, really. So for anyone who's just like looking at their vision board, I was listening to, I think, Mel Robbins today talking about don't put fancy cars on your vision board if you're sitting in a flat or your mom's basement. Like that just seems so far away. So writing those daily blog posts, by the end of it, it was just like, holy crap, I have this full book. So that's really where I started. I started with the Lyme disease book and blog and coaching. The unfortunate thing is that at some point I really burned out. And it wasn't like I was so burnt out that I had to stop doing anything. I think I lost my motivation because even though I'd sold a few thousand books, if I really counted all the hours of manual labor that I did, it equated to maybe a couple dollars or a couple pennies on the hour. So it was really discouraging. And I look back and in hindsight, wish I did a little bit more in terms of collaboration. I mean, today collaboration is the heart of my marketing strategy, and it makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable than the chronic self-promotion. But back in the day, I was writing articles and producing so much free content and doing so much research to produce this free content and doing backlinks and posting in forums. And really, like, there was only one of me. And in hindsight, there were other doctors who write in the Lyme disease space. There were other Lyme disease communities, so Facebook groups. There are all sorts of people who already served my ideal readers, and I was not collaborating with them. So I really burned out and I gave up for a long time, went back to school for marketing, learned a lot of skills that I was lacking, and came back into it to start a community, a self-publishing community in July of 2021, and basically did no self-promotion, promoted other people, started a podcast like you so that I could build rapport with people who would never otherwise talk to me, and then just see what happens when you're not recording, when you hit stop record and you start asking, like, how's the weather? What can I do to support you now? That's where you really get to see if other podcast hosts and community hosts and cross promoters are going to be your lifelong partners, or people who want to pay it forward. People like to keep the giving score. So, like, you're platforming me right now. Of course, I cannot help but think, how can I pay it forward? Like, what can I do? So that is just like the ball's in my court now. So I love collaboration for authors because all of us have books, and it's a little bit competitive, but also our readers read more than one book. So we don't need to be competitive at all. We can really collaborate with our direct competitors. So back.
It's interesting, isn't it? I just wanted to interject here, because what you're talking about is so common. You know, when we start out in this entrepreneurial space and we start our journey, we sort of think, oh gosh, and often people are starting out with very limited budgets. They don't know a lot about things. So they're really thirsty for this information and knowledge. And we go down this path of trying to learn everything ourselves. And in the most part, people do say a pretty darn good job of it, but you get to a point where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted now, I'm burnt out. And if only we took this advice that you're talking about today, in the sense that, hey, if you collaborated earlier in the piece, it would expedite that journey. It would decrease the amount of hours you would have to do. You're not having to do all of that self-promotion all the time, because you've got a whole bunch of other cheerleaders who are there really cheering for you or sharing with you. And I want to tell this, because the reason that Jess is actually on this show today is because she collaborated with someone else. She had somebody else in her corner who was her cheerleader, who said, hey Trace, I've got somebody else who I think would be really awesome on your show. Her name is blah, 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 and this is what she does. She should be on the Unlocked show. And I want to do a bit of a shout out to Michael Whitehouse for that, because I think he is a great example of somebody who really does go that extra mile. He says he's a guy who knows a guy, and he knows some people, because he's a great connector and collaborator with others. So that's just an example of what Jess is talking about today, and how that really can catapult you and pull you and allow you, or give you exposure, maybe in some areas that you would never have had the opportunity to have exposure in.
Yeah, and Michael is great. I don't know how I'll ever repay him for all the people he introduces me to, but he really just knows so many people, and I think he's going wonderful places because he's so well connected. And there are, I don't know how many dozens or hundreds of people who he can, what's it called? When you can cash in IOUs, whenever he's ready to launch something, he has so many fans and friends who'll be like, yeah, I've been waiting to promote you. So, yeah, just making friends. Collaboration is about community. It's not just transactional. Like, I have 1,000 subscribers, you have 1,000 subscribers. Let's do a cross promotion. it can really be so rewarding to lift up other authors and businesses and transform their lives as a way of transforming your own. And it also looks nice to your readers and your ideal customers who see that you're just trying to help them. You're a curator of products and services, and you reach out and stay top of mind while also saying, this isn't even my promotion, but I think you're really going to like it, so I just wanted to share it with you. And in the back,
love that.
Yeah, it's nice. You can share things like Oprah, just other people's freebies, like their ebooks that are their prequels, their lead magnets. That's a really easy collaboration because some people feel uncomfortable promoting paid stuff, but lots of authors have their lead magnets. So you could just be like, hey, to your audience, this book is great and it's free. Check it out here. And in the background, that person who you're promoting is promoting you. So they could have a swipe file where you've written out the promotional copy or not. Maybe they prefer writing their own copy, but now that's kind of an evergreen process where you don't need to promote yourself anymore. You have your list of people to nurture, and you can launch things to your list. But once they've heard it, let your promotional partners talk you up and talk up the stuff that brings new people in, rather than sounding like a broken record.
Now, there's so many places I want to go with this because based on kind of the things that you've spoken about already, there's so many gold nuggets within this. And, you know, if I go back to the reason that we're doing today's podcast is to help those people that are, if you know, they know they've got a book inside of them, but they're just not sure how to get it out. And, you know, you mentioned earlier on that the way that you did that was like you found your passion. You knew you were interested in this thing, Lyme's disease, because it was going on with you and you were curious and you wanted to do the research. And when you found that research for yourself, well, it made a whole lot of sense to start putting that on paper and sharing it with other people. And before long, you know, that one blog, you know, it might be 500 words at a time, you know, it was a series of blogs, and over time you had enough content there to write a book. So I mean, just in that, it's like breaking it down into smaller bite-sized pieces and maybe thinking about things a little bit differently, not thinking about, gosh, I've got to eat the whole elephant at once and write the entire book with all the chapters and all the things in it. It's just one small piece, one concept and one idea, and let's write about that. And then the next day I write about the next concept, and so on and so forth. And before you know it, you've got an amazing amount of content that then could write a book. So I think that really helps people to chunk things down and give it to, you know, be kind on themselves and allow themselves to do it in much smaller chunks. The other part of this that you've already alluded to is the fact that you can now use this information for lead generation. And I know this is something that you're extremely passionate about and have become very, very good at over time. So you want to sort of elaborate on why do you think, I'm really curious now, why do you think writing a book is such an important thing? And who should really write a book? Who should do that?
Everybody.
Yeah, that might be a loaded question, but yeah, why?
I think we all have a book in us, right? And it's so cathartic, whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction or your memoirs. And Victoria Anderson, I interviewed last year about memoir writing, and I never realized that we could all write our memoirs. Even fiction writers can write talk about why they're so obsessed with characters who grieve or whatever it is. So really dive into your own pathology or explore your family history. Whatever it is, you have something to share with the world. And a lot of us, including myself, find it hard to have a voice because there's so much noise in the world. So why would people want to listen to me? And it's a way to challenge your limiting beliefs and have a voice. So for me, it's really emotional and borderline spiritual to write a book.
I am really passionate about this, and you touched on something around sort of that whole family and legacy building, really. And you know, when you're writing your legacy. yeah, memoirs, it's like, how do you, it's the ability to be able to pass this information on through generations of
Yeah.
your family that's coming after you. And I think that's an extremely powerful thing to do. And we only need to think, I mean, I'm going off tangent here, but I am actually very passionate about this, because when you think about it, lots of people in today's world will go to places like ancestry.com or MyHeritage, and they'll try and find information about themselves and about their family from people who are not their family. When you're taking your memoirs and you're writing about your own family history, your experiences in this lifetime, and enabling that to be, bound up in a book, that enables your family who are going to be interested. It's those, what I would call legacy builders, that are interested down the track, gives them the opportunity to hear from their own family about their family. So I think that's extremely powerful.
I never thought of it that way, but that
Mm,
I love that. I think a lot of us hide behind fiction because we're afraid or ashamed of our family history. And I think another great reason to write is to be a role model for someone who is vulnerable and shares the ugly side. And just seeing that is really inspirational, because it's very hard to be imperfect and public about those imperfections. And a book is so vulnerable. So having people in your family who could be the brave ones who just like let it all out would be cathartic for like multi-generational trauma, perhaps.
well, in fact, it's kind of proven to be that it can be very healing for people to read and understand that, okay, well, maybe the way that I am is actually because of some generational trauma that's actually been passed down. We digress, but it's very interesting, but
Yeah.
it's relevant, because when we're talking about writing our own book, and the do's and the don'ts of, I mean, a lot of people would think, gosh, I shouldn't do that, but you want to be, in your book, you want to be vulnerable and relatable, and write on a topic that is dear to you. When you're writing about Lyme's disease, it's dear to you because it's happening to you. And therefore, the reader that is reading it is most likely happening to them too. So there will be almost like this kinship that gets created through the pages and the words on the pages within that book. It's there's something pretty special about sort of being that author and then the reader having the opportunity to really get inside of your brain, so to speak, and absorb what's been going on. So I think it's like you say, it can be very therapeutic when you're doing this. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about kind of the benefits of writing a book and what you've seen the benefits are from a business standpoint and lead generation. What are you seeing there, and what are some of the things that you would recommend somebody do, and maybe some things that they shouldn't do?
I think there's two benefits, and one is that it's just so intimate, like you were just saying, to spend that time with an author and get in their head and hear their thoughts. So I think that writing and sharing your writing is one of the most intimate ways to build rapport with someone. You can have short form content, you can write blogs, you can have YouTube videos. There's all sorts of ways to build rapport. But someone who spends 20,000 to 100,000 words with you, they're invested. You've hooked them, and it's not just a clickbaity hook where they could swipe by and watch 1,000 other things. If you have someone's attention for dozens or hundreds of pages, that's a really good sign that they vibe with your message. And then the other thing is, when you have books, these are fantastic, super, super easy lead magnets. So you can put your book on Amazon. You can take advantage of Kindle Unlimited or freebie days, but you can also have a perma freebie book, and that is your ticket to collaboration, and also inviting people onto your list, so that you're not asking people for a sale right away. You're asking them to join your party and see if they want to stick around. So it's a really nice way when you pair having that invitation to join your list with actually having something incredible for them to build rapport with you quickly versus having the subscribe now, join my newsletter, whatever that means. We're all so busy, and we follow way too many different email lists already. So it needs to really vibe with that person. And this is where the riches are in the niches phrase comes in. And I don't follow this myself. I wish I was better at this, but the more relatable you can be with your lead magnet and your books, the more likely that you'll convince someone to give their information to you.
You make such a good point here about the whole attention side of things, because if we think about, I mean, you just need to jump on TikTok, right, and see how many times are you like swiping or just looking at, aimlessly scrolling through things and not really taking stuff in. And I think I heard a statistic, goldfish has an attention span of about 7 seconds, and a human now has less attention span than a goldfish. So if
No,
you,
it's not good.
yeah, I know, it's pretty ridiculous, isn't it? But if you think somebody's taken the time to pick up your book and they're making that conscious effort and conscious decision that this is a topic that I'm interested in, that's the reason I've picked it up, and I'm going to invest X amount of time, whether it's, if they're fast, it might be a day, if they read it over a period of time, it might be a month. You have the opportunity to spend that amount of time with somebody over an extended period of time on a topic that they are actually interested in. And like you say, weaved within that book, there are certain things that you can say, hey, if you'd like more information on this, you could join my programs, you can join my newsletter, all sorts of different things that would then help them to take the next steps. And I know with the books that myself and Vicky Helm have written, we've certainly done that throughout the books. And we've found that those books, when somebody does spend that amount of time with us, before they tend to join any of our programs, they actually know all about them. They are highly qualified, they are interested in that topic, and they're like, we get what you are saying, and that's what we want.
And they have the attention span to do well in your program. So it, as great as it is to have 100,000 subscribers or followers, it's a lot better to have people who are really paying attention, and they're not just clicking a like button and collecting like freebie hoarders and follow hoarders, whatever you would call them.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to subscribe on TikTok. I think you can subscribe to hundreds of people in a day and see thousands of videos in a day. But someone who has the attention span, not of a goldfish, and actually reads a book is a really qualified lead.
Absolutely. So let's talk about sort of the benefits of self-publishing versus I should go and hire a publisher. Other than, obviously there's the obvious thing of cost, but what are some of the other benefits that you've seen, maybe self-publishing versus getting a company to publish you?
Yeah, so I like to silo all the things involved with a book into let's say 6 or 7 categories. We have the actual writing, and within every one of these categories, there's services that you could use. You could hire a ghostwriter or a writing coach. So we have writing. We have editing, where you can hire a developmental editor or a copywriter or a line editor or proofreader. We have design, cover design, formatting. We have distribution and production, because those are sometimes separate, sometimes together. Like Amazon will distribute and produce for you. And we have promotion and marketing. And then we also have business. I'd say that authors really need to treat their books as products for their business. So the bookkeeping and admin stuff, and actually keeping track of cash flow and all of that stuff that comes with running a business, so that it's not just an expensive hobby. So I like to think of publishing in terms of all of these different divisions And it's really up to you. Do you want to hire a hybrid publisher who knows this and has people on their team who can help where needed? Or do you have the writing down and the marketing down, but you just can't stand formatting? And you definitely want an editor, but you want to interview your editor and make sure that you're aligned with your editor. I love my editor, and she does her own quirky thing where she does developmental edit, just one go. Then I revise it, give it back for a line edit. And it's like a 3-tier process with one person. So I probably couldn't get that with a hybrid publisher. And I read on Creative Indie, Derek Murphy's website, and I'm just quoting him, so I don't know where I found this statistic. I just found it on a Creative Indie's website, but hybrid publishers or trade publishers, not self-published, but trade and hybrid, are publishing on average 12 books for every author. So that's not a great turnaround. So you really need to trust them. And there's some people in the space in hybrid publishing that I really trust, and I would pay them. There are probably a lot more that are not performing well, if not having hundreds of authors sue. I know there's a whole umbrella of publishing companies under Author Solutions that have had so many lawsuits. So really, this is a matter of look at reviews. Talk to someone who has actually used that service, because there's a lot of dreamy sales copy out there, and some of the most professional looking websites are really disappointing authors. And there's a lot of nightmare stories that you may have heard with authors spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on services that are really fluff and smoke and mirrors, like when they promise 1 million hits and that directors might see your book just because, in reality, you're in a directory with thousands of other authors. So like maybe they scan a page and your name in tiny fine print is there. That's not really worth paying for. Some hybrid publishers will ask you to buy thousands of copies of your own book. And then that's how authors end up with all these copies in their garage. And whether you're trade, hybrid, or self-published, you have to do some marketing. You have to build your own brand. So this is something I believe all of us should watch some YouTube videos, pick up a book. There's fabulous books on, getting your personal MBA just by reading a book or watching some videos or taking free courses. You don't need to go back to school or spend 4 years learning how to become a marketer. You need to learn a little bit and then just kind of dive in and experiment and fail fast, as they say in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. And you're right, a lot of this is just about once you learn something, you've got to go that next step and actually implement it. So
Yes.
so this whole concept of like that, we've talked about here in terms of, start out small, get your concept and your idea. What is it that you want to be? What is it you want to be known for? What's the thing you are going to write about? And in your case, it started out as, writing about Lyme's disease and doing that through blogging, and then collating all of that and saying, what here is book worthy? What components of what I've written so far would actually make a really good guts of a book? And then thinking through what's the process. I just want to reiterate those: the writing component, the editing, the design, the distribution and production, the promotion and the marketing, and then the actual business side of things. And I think if I kind of take that and I flip it on its head and we start with the business side of things and we think about it from that perspective, is why am I writing a book in the first instance? What's my purpose here? And if your purpose is, if it was for family, it is so that my family gets to read it, then some of the other stuff, the way in which you do the writing, the editing, even the design and the distribution and production all gets done quite differently depending on what's the purpose of that book and what are you wanting to achieve from that. And then from a business perspective, if it is for lead generation, then we're thinking about that. Who is our avatar? What are they interested in? What would they like to read about? What's really important to them? What of my hiccups and my things that haven't gone so well could I pull out and actually be a bit vulnerable and share with them, because all of those little flaws and those challenges that we face enable somebody to read it and go, gosh, they might resonate with that. That's me. And it gives them the impetus to keep moving forward and enables them to start doing their own thing. Now, if we kind of think about kind of this whole book writing side of things, maybe we can give some people some tips on what I'm hearing a lot of people say is, where's the best place for me to find an editor, or where's the best place that I could go to get some design done? Because maybe that's something that I'm not very good at. I can write, but I'm terrible at the design. So where are some of your top places that you would recommend somebody go if they're self-publishing to find good quality people?
That's tricky because there are, let's say, designers. There are some designers who specialize in sci-fi or romance or fantasy or nonfiction or Christian nonfiction. So I think it's much easier to find a designer who understands your genre or a few genres, because they're constantly studying covers for bestsellers in those categories. You can also use other tools, and a good designer who is a generalist cover designer for all genres will probably use something like K-Lytics so that they can easily analyze covers across genres and see what colors and typography is really popular in one genre versus another. I would never think about these things, and the only reason I am now is from interviewing different designers. I interviewed someone in fantasy cover design who was talking about the typography and how you could have nothing on the background, or you could have a poor quality background, but if the typography is good, it could save the cover. Whereas if you have a beautiful custom illustrated background, but the typography is bad, you ruin the image or the illustration of the cover. So I think really it depends on your genre, and socialize, ask other authors their experiences. There's Facebook groups, there's communities where you can look for reviews. So I would say don't just go on Fiverr. You can, and there's people that review. Some Fiverr freelancers have hundreds of reviews, so that's a good sign. But it's a really good sign when you talk to someone else in your genre and they're like, I love this person. So I love my editor. Her name is Joy Rankantari, and she used to be a journalist. And for me, dialogue and line flow is so important. I'm really particular about dialogue tags, and it needs to be said or ask, and barely any of that. So for me, it was important that I had a particular type of editor who got that. But for someone else, it might just be that they have great success with past clients. I think that is the best indicator of whether your relationship will be good. And also interview people.
Yeah.
And a good editor will do a sample edit. So give them a page, give them 3 pages. Pay if you think they're worth it. There's some editors who have wait lists for a reason. So I would pay someone to edit 3 pages of my book and see, okay, this is what it's going to be like. I will put down $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $6,000. Some editors are worth a lot of money because they do a great job, and there's a big difference between an editor who just catches commas and an editor who like moves mountains and makes sure that your paragraphs are structured right and will actually move sentences around and change the flow and make sure you don't say but or also more than once every couple pages. And that, to me, like a good editor is very important. And I know a lot of authors don't have a lot of money, but a good editor, it's a good starting point.
And if you think about that, I mean, that comes back to your comments around, drawing the audience in and getting them to actually spend the time reading the book rather than it just being a hook and a good hook and then no real substance to it, and they just put the book down, close it, and never go back to it again. So I think what's key here, what I'm hearing you say, is that it's really important. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, research really is key. It's like researching right at the beginning, whether it's digging deep into your own self and figuring out what is it that I'm passionate about and that I want to write about, then having a look to see is that something that an audience would be interested in, and then each step along the way, whether it's an editor, whether it's a designer, whether it's a marketing company to help you market it, doing your research. And you also mentioned this, and hence the reason that you're so darn good at it, is this whole collaboration piece. Is like asking other people, collaborating with them and asking them, who is it that you used? Would you recommend them? And then doing your research. And then I think once you've done that and you've said, hey, I used your editor, or they'll come back to you and say, did you use that editor? Yes, I did. And she did a great job. Would you be interested in, being part of my book launch crew? And then that starts to beef up that collaboration piece. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that and what you can do. So let's say somebody's gone through the process, we've written our book, it's looking beautiful, it's ready to go. What sort of things should we prepare for a launch, for a book launch? And this obviously lends itself to, because this is where you're going to be generating some leads for the purchase of your book, and then obviously other products that you have created as business assets.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to go about this, but I'd like to start with marketing. And before your book is even published, to really start thinking about marketing as making friends. I have a friend named Franklin Taggart who's a heart-centered business coach, and he said marketing is just making friends. And I love this because I've been in marketing for a decade, and sometimes I've felt gross about my career, and adding that element where you just start to see it as friendship, scaling your friendship abilities, just makes it a lot nicer. And to find a marketing strategy that aligns with you. So we have our book, we have a great product, we want it to get out there. How do we do that? I think you said it with the launch team. How do we find the launch team? And who is a good person on our launch team? To me, other people who serve your ideal readers, great people to have on your launch team. We can have friends and family and other authors who we know, but they're not in our genres. But I think it's never too early to start networking with people who serve your ideal customers, readers, clients, whatever it is. So if you write romance, find other romance authors so that you can start just building rapport with them. How can you consolidate? For me, marketing can be really gross. And I think a lot of us feel that way about marketing and sales. But when it comes to collaborations, you can make content together. You never have to eat alone. You never need to content alone. So right now you're creating content by having a conversation with me. We can carry on this conversation after this is over. And now we just got to know each other better, built rapport with each other while creating content and serving each other in different ways. That's a really nice starting point to a relationship. So even if you don't have a book, you could start podcasting. If you're a business writer, a summit is a super aggressive way to generate leads fast, where you're just building community. You have speakers or contributors or affiliates who are all bringing in their audience to one big campaign at once. Or you do cross promotions where it's just, I have a lead magnet. I don't even want to be on social media that much, but I will do one cross promotion per week. So I always review someone else's book every single week, and not just in my nurturing my own email list. I'm nurturing people in my industry. I'm becoming known in my industry. So to me, never too early to become known in your industry and start building rapport, checking in, making introductions between the people that you're getting to know, since you all serve the same ideal readers, and thanking them, wishing them happy holidays, and just staying top of mind. You don't need to just start reaching out when you're ready to pitch something. In fact, you should start reaching out way before you start pitching.
Yeah.
Sometimes
that would kind of be one in those in that don't category, right? Don't leave it to the last. Only talk to your, to your connections when you want something. This is about building a relationship and nurturing that over time, so that you become, as you say, you become friends, and it's friends then are willing to help and support one another whenever is required, and you'll have people jumping at the chance to be on your support crew, on your launch team, and happy to promote what you're doing because they're now invested in it as your friend.
Rising tides lift all boats. That's how it goes, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of this concept, I know that you've then gone down, and I'm assuming this is kind of how the whole collaboration side of things, a part of your business, has come about, because you soon realized that, gosh, we need to be collaborating. That's the way in which, we can move forward. And I know a lot of people sort of get stuck in this area, no matter what sort of business you've got. We went through that phase of get an influencer, somebody who's got a huge following and a huge list on whether it be Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or wherever, and having to pay them a lot of money to do a shout out or to do certain things that were quite, let's say, manufactured, to make those sorts of things happen. And you've really taken that concept but said, hey, let's kind of wrap a friendship around that. Let's wrap around, some real authentic conversations, so that we're actually building solid foundations rather than a one-time promotional event. Want to tell us a little bit more about that, and what you've seen, what have you seen in that with that shift taking place?
Yeah, so I actually married collaboration with my own personal branding because I moved into corporate marketing after the whole Lyme author career went bust. And I started working for my family business, which is one of the largest toy stores in Canada, and noticed that we actually were paying mommy blog relationships did not lead to results. And we're a large company, but we're also lean. And during, the pandemic and all the things that happened, and just trying to pivot in a crazy economy, we still needed to be prudent with our budget. And I found that collaborations with brands of similar sizes, and a lot of charities in our case, just led to more people and organizations wanting to get involved. So we would have a Toys for Tots charity donation bin in our store. Then the local radio and news station want to just talk about it because it's something that all of our audiences just are aligned on. We all serve local moms, right? And it was just a really rewarding way to spend our marketing energy. And just, we had ads work great. And then we had the mommy bloggers and these transactional relationships that just kind of fell short. And then we had the more reciprocal relationships with collaboration. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this and build my own brand from scratch, which was in July of 2021 when I started building an author community. And I just put a lead magnet up, and it was really easy because it was just a weekly Zoom event, which is still going on every single week now. And yeah, so it was an easy lead magnet to put up. And I started thinking about how I can collaborate in the online space. Who else serves my ideal audience, which was authors? who else is actively marketing and not just talking about themselves. So like podcasters are the best because they are platforming other people. They know all these other people and they get it. Like podcasters are with it when it comes to collaboration. So who else is platforming other people? Who else is talking about other things besides themselves? Because the me show gets boring. And people who just chronically self-promote, probably not going to be good collab buddies. And I was also looking at who else has lead magnets. So not just book a discovery call, because you cannot collect upwards of hundreds of emails with a book of discovery call to action. So who else has a lead magnet that can collect upwards of hundreds of emails at a time? And then I also like to opt into people's email list and see what my audience would get if I were to recommend them, right? So that when I'm promoting other people, they have a great customer experience with these other people too, that I'm sending them off to, right? So I'm actually vetting people. I'm either consuming their content or at least getting on the customer experience that my audience would get if I recommended them. It's also a great way to just start becoming pen pals. So you opt in, and this is where you can say thank you so much. When they send you their automated welcome sequence, start responding and say exactly what happened when you implemented something that they suggested in their book or their webinar or whatever it is. And they'll probably respond, because it's really nice for any of us to feel heard and actually hear, oh, I helped you get results. So that's a nice way to start building a relationship and just become pen pals with people who you're a follower of. Now you can start networking and become a colleague.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great, coming back to this whole concept of research, because that's come up so many times throughout, this conversation. If you boil it down to one thing, it's all of that. And even opting into other people's, lists for the purposes of, I'm researching. I want to see what actually happens. What are they doing? How are they doing that? Are they somebody that I could collaborate with? Is the information that they're sharing going to be valuable to my audience? And if so, then you've done the first part. You've ticked the box that says yes, and yes, they're a great person. They do a great job of delivering what they say they're going to deliver. And I enjoyed their freebie that they gave, and I would be prepared to share that with somebody else. I mean, it's a great way of being able to start that whole process. So I mean, in today's show, we've talked about so many things, in terms of the do's and the don'ts of kind of this whole world of self-publishing. And I know there's a lot more to this. There's a lot more things that people need to know about. There's more, you've got a lot of don't do this, and yes, you absolutely should do that. Where's the best place for people to go and hang out and have more of Jess? Where should they go to, Jess? Is there do you want them to go to your website, to one of your social media pages, a podcast? Where's the best place to hang out with you? Not to mention you have that collaboration connection every week.
I do. So I have the weekly. It's Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, and that it's a really loosey-goosey, fun group of dedicated authors who meet up and hang out in breakout rooms. It's really informal and lovely. And I also have an event coming up from January 24th to 27th called Sell Books with Collabs. And it's a 4-day event for authors to hang out and network, do some social learning. Michael Whitehouse is one of my speakers. And there's not a lot of speakers. We're all hanging out in Zoom. We're networking. We're in breakout rooms. We're getting to know each other. And the point is to find your collab besties. And if you don't find them in every single breakout room, because there's nonfiction, there's fiction writers, then you're still meeting a bunch of people who are learning to get into a collaborative mindset where, okay, so I love you, but you're a Christian fiction writer and I write satire. We're not good collab buddies, but I met another Christian fiction writer in the other breakout room. I'm going to connect you. And those two people are now thinking, who can I connect Jess to? So it's going to be, I'm super excited about it. just to get authors collaborating and meeting everybody in the publishing community. So that is in January, and it's going to be great.
And so if somebody wanted to join that, where do they go? What's the
That's
best
a good
place that they can, we're not there yet, or, they could connect with you on maybe on social media, and when the time comes for that, those registrations are out, then you can let them know.
You can join the wait list at sellwithcollabs.com. Collabs like collaboration. Sellwithcollabs.com.
Okay, let me just pop this up on the screen and you tell me if I've got this right. So is this correct? Sellwithcollabs.com. They can head on over there.
Collabs.
Double L's. Alrighty. Well, let's just make that change. Let's do that.
Thank you, Tracy.
Like so. All right, let's save that. So there you go, guys. So sellwithcollabs.com is where you can go to get on that waiting list. And that way you can go and collaborate with a bunch of other authors and find your collaboration buddies. Because when it's time for you to take all of that concept out of your head, which should be today, by the way, if you're not, and the ways that you can do it, we've shared some of these, podcasting, or even just picking up a microphone. Do you have to go live like we do, on and sharing everything on social media initially? No, you don't. You could simply pick up your phone and just start recording your thoughts. Do that over a series of days and weeks, and before you know it, you're going to have some really great content on there. So if that's something that is preventing you from kind of putting your stuff out there as going live initially, just don't do it. Just pick up a pen and a paper and go old school, or just pick up your phone and start recording. And of course, you could go live if you're feeling, you've got a bit of confidence and you're ready to do that, and or podcast. But just and blogging, of course, is one of the things that Jess has mentioned. And once you start doing that, you'll start building yourself up a lovely library of information and content that you will start to use to formulate your book down the track. And then you can jump onto the collab sessions that Jess has got coming up through Sell with Collabs, and you can do that summit, and then you can learn a little bit more about it and start building up your connections and collaborate with some other people. Is there anything else that you wanted to add today, Jess, before we sort of round out today's show?
I don't know. I think this was lovely, and thank you so much, Tracy, for having me and having this platform. And I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. Like after 55 minutes together, I just feel like at this point, this is where we hang up and I ask you, like, how can I return the favor? And this is exactly why I hope that some of your audience starts their own podcasts and starts thinking about collaborating.
It's funny. Well, it's not really funny because it's, the fact that you've brought that up, because a lot of conversations and a lot of great collaborations happen, once we hit the, in broadcast and we're behind the scenes and we're having a good old chat, and often a lot of, a lot of other things come out behind the live screen. So I would encourage everybody, where you can, if you've got a voice, you've got something inside of you that you want to share, I would say go and unlock that. And like you guys know, I always end every show with live your life unlocked, because there is just no other way. And that is so true. As we continue through this journey of life that we have, we want to make sure that we're doing it unlocked, that we're experiencing everything we possibly can to the best of our ability and as much as we possibly can, because life's too darn short. So that being said, I just want to remind you guys to head on over to sellwithcollabs.com. That's where you can get on the waiting list. And I'm sure Jess and Michael and a whole bunch of other people are going to be there welcoming you with open arms and sharing all the fun stuff about how you can build your business and share what you know through really solid collaboration. So I want to thank you for being such an amazing guest today. Thank you guys for joining in and listening to another episode of The Unlocked Show. I'm going to say bye for now, and I'm going to see you guys again with another episode next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. So I'll see you then. Thanks, Jess. See you, everybody.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye, guys.